I want it. Unless you show me, say, in take away blessing from it. Wow, you follow me now, you know. You know, I don't come back with no lay argument, you know. No. Bless it. Set it apart for holy use. That's what sanctify means. No, God is always holy. His essence is holiness. God does not need holy time. And if you think me, I make up something. Jesus said, this Sabbath was made for who, God? The Sabbath was made for man. This Sabbath was not made for God. This Sabbath was made for man. God not need Sabbath. We're shocked by that. We're shocked. We never know that. The Sabbath is for us. I'm making an important point, you know. If you make the Sabbath from creation for man, and man their own from that time, why would man be keeping it? Someone come and say, boy, you don't really see a command, you know. And the whole between Genesis and so on, you know, it's no command. But lose your logical thinking. You don't have to see a command. There's a thing called inference. There's a thing called the inductive reasoning that we are capable of. If him set it apart for holy use, and him and no holy, him no need it. And the angels will need it. And later on, Moses said, create for man. Why would him create it for man? Before there was any Jew, before there was any Israelite nation, before there was any old covenant, before there was any sacrificial system, before any temple system, before any Levitical priesthood, he make it for man. Why would God make it for man? And wait 2,000 years for when a sign I forget. Then you think Jew man any better than man before? We must use our minds. We must use our brains that God has given us. Our head is not just a weird cap and hat for woman. Hallelujah, man. Give me some hallelujah, man. No, because on Sunday you can't give me hallelujah. We can't get hallelujah to man. Now if you wait till Sunday to get hallelujah. The Lord hallowed the Sabbath day. Set it apart. Because he had rested from the work. Now, we see that the Sabbath was created as a memorial of creation. And when you go back to the law, the actual law in Exodus 20, let's look there. In Exodus 20, the way I set up the thing, you know, you can't just hear one lecture, you know. Oh, I do it. And, well, it depends. If a man interested enough in this thing, he will come back and make the sacrifice here, you know. If a man not interested, well, that's where it go. But I now go really compromise how the thing for do. And rush through. Because I want to have understanding. So next week, again, 2 o'clock we'll finish. We're not finished yet. But next week, 2 o'clock we'll do it. Because I want some questions. In Exodus 20, when the actual covenant is made. Because you have Jehovah's Witness, you know. Jehovah's love quote Deuteronomy 5. Mr. Devon Dick write an article about Sabbath. And him quote Deuteronomy, love quote Deuteronomy 5. You know, the Lord made covenant with this day and what. And him love quote where it said that the Lord gave the Sabbath because you were slaves in Egypt. To try to show us boy, the Sabbath is a thing to memorialize a particular historical context. They love quote them part there. Notice when them quote it. Because you were slaves in Egypt, the Lord gave you the Sabbath. To make it seem so well, boy, I will be never slave in Egypt, so that not enough with something that. A sleight of hand, 3-card trick. Go back to the law, see what the law says. When it is given, see how the law, in fact, what is very funny about the people, you know, they quote Deuteronomy and other texts that link the Sabbath with Egypt. You never hear them talk about the law of love and link it with Egypt. But I wonder if anybody ever knows. I have never made this point in any sermon. But I wonder if anybody ever noticed that the very first words of the entire 10 The entire 10, not just the Sabbath. It says, and God spoke all these words saying, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of bondage. The other 9 commandments are also in that context. But profoundly. Well, look at this profound point. Profoundly, of all of the 10, the one that specifically goes back to antiquity. Hallelujah. It's amazing. Them always draw the Sabbath in Egypt. And them don't tell you that the whole thing was set in that context. But the one that him tell you, him take out and show us before Egypt, was not the one about love and steal. The one him says, remember the Sabbath date to keep it holy. 6 days you shall live and do all your work. And the 7th day is a Sabbath of the Lord. You shall not do any work, and so on. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. In the law itself, it tells you that the Sabbath law was given as a memorial of creation, not just as a memorial of Israel's bondage. That is a profound point. That is a profound point. In Exodus 31, again you see that, which we don't have to go to. So whenever you hear people draw the context and say, boy, it's just because of they were in Egypt. But not only that, go to Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19. I will show you something. I see Devon Dick write an article and say, oh, the Sabbatarians love go back to Genesis. Love to talk about how Sabbath starts in Genesis. And they don't realize the text that so clearly, because our Lord made a covenant with you and only with Israel, and is a sign between me and Israel and all that. So their big argument is that because there are occasions when God associates Sabbath keeping and contextualizes that within Israel's history. Natural. It's like we are preachers here now. If I give a sermon in Jamaica to illustrate a universal principle, I start talk about Jamaican examples. Might be dance or something I bring about that can illustrate the point. If me there in Sweden and I preach, I not talk about things that don't relate to the Swedish Christians. I speak in context. That was what happened when God now had liberated Israel. God applied one of the meanings of the Sabbath, which has to do with liberation also, to Israel. When people now latch on to that as though that is the only purpose, and therefore, because we were not slaves in Egypt, it doesn't apply to us. Let me mash down that lie here right now. Let me show you Leviticus 19:33. Leviticus 19:33. Anytime you hear a man, a Jehovah's Witness come to your house and quote that, tell them about Leviticus 19:33. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him any wrong. You can't get more basic than this. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be to you as the native among you. You shall love him as yourself. Why? For you are strangers in the land of Egypt. If when you use a text to say that you are strangers in the land of Egypt, therefore, boy, we weren't strangers, you don't have to keep Sabbath, then are you saying no, what a man shouldn't love? Here, God contextualizes the love for the stranger to Israel's journey and their oppression. I mean, boy, it is just final one in this area. Exodus 23:9. I told you we're going to be about serious business today. Exodus 23:9. You shall not oppress a stranger. You know